It's like the Tacoma Little Theater or something, playing with like Johnny and those guys. The first time I heard that guy, I was in love with him. It was just amazing.
I think that it changes for me all the time.
Beyond music, Jerry Cantrell loved Layne Staley deeply, but the love and affection weren't enough to save him from an addiction that led to his death. People began to whisper to themselves and spread rumors concerning the situation surrounding Layne's death. Join us as we take you through the lives of Jerry Cantrell and Layne Staley. We will explore their diverse interests, bond, the cause of Staley's death, and the rumors. Jerry Cantrell's life. Jerry Fulton Cantrell Jr. was born on the 18th of March in the year 1996. Jerry is known as an American guitarist, singer, and songwriter, best recognized as the founder, lead guitarist, co-lead vocalist, and original songwriter of the iconic rock band Alice in Chains. Born in Tacoma, Washington, Jerry Cantrell emerged as one of the most influential and highly regarded musicians to come out of the Seattle scene. Cantrell contributed largely to shaping the grunge and alternative metal sound in the 1990s. His deep lyrics, unique guitar style, and dark emotional melodies helped Alice in Chains stand out from other bands at the time. The band made it big in the year 1990 with their first album titled Facelift, thanks to the popular song Man in the Box. Their music blended heavy metal, alternative rock, and eerie harmonies in a way that attracted a large audience. A key part of their sound was the way Cantrell's voice blended with that of Layne Staley. Staley was the main singer initially, but with time, Cantrell started singing more, especially after their 1992 acoustic EP Sap, which allowed Cantrell to display. When Jar of Flies was finally released in 1994 and their self-titled album in 1995, Cantrell was sharing more of the lead vocals. His songs often touched on sensitive themes like addiction, loneliness, and life struggles, topics that connected and resonated with a lot of people. Sadly, Staley died in 2002 after a long time after having struggled with addiction, which was a huge blow to the band and their fans. After taking a break because of his death, the band came back in the year 2009 with a new singer, William Duvall, and they released the album Black Gives Way to Blue. It was a powerful tribute to Staley. Cantrell took the lead on most songs, with Duvall singing backup and handling the older tracks live. Since then, Alice in Chains has released 2 more albums that are now very well received. The Devil Put Dinosaurs, here in 2019, and Rainier Fog in 2008, showing that Cantrell was still growing as an artist. On top of that, he's also released solo albums like Boggy Depot, Degradation Trip, and Brighton, proving he can excel and do well in music on his own too. All in all, Jerry Cantrell is a highly respected figure in the rock music industry. His guitar playing, singing, and songwriting have made him well-known and highly regarded. People's lives were beginning to get impacted, and his value could no longer be ignored. After more than 30 years, he continues to influence both fellow musicians and fans worldwide. Jerry's life before meeting Layne Staley. Jerry was the oldest of 3 kids. Growing up, he had to mature quickly due to the demands and expectations that came with being the first child. He learned how to deal with pain and loneliness at a very young age, and that deep emotional undercurrent would later become a signature part of his music. But back then, he was just a quiet, thoughtful boy trying to make sense of his world and figure himself out in a world that seemed to care so little about his becoming. Music was an escape route for him. His mom introduced him to a lot of it. She was fully supportive of his love for the guitar and even bought him his first one. Jerry didn't grow up in a house full of wealth, but he was rich in grit, and music gave him something to hold on to. In high school, Jerry was an outcast. He was not quite a rebel, nor was he quite a nerd. He was simply Jerry. He was smart and had a sarcastic sense of humor. People liked him, but he wasn't chasing after fame. He spent most of his time jamming, listening to bands like Black Sabbath, AC/DC, and Van Halen. His favorite artist was Elton John. It might surprise some people, but Jerry once said that Elton's greatest hits album changed his life. He didn't start out thinking he'd be in a grunge band. Jerry originally leaned toward heavy metal and hard rock. He was also a big fan of the blues. His passion was in expressing emotions and the hearts of people through music, the kind that crawled out of the speakers and wrapped itself around you. That's the kind of music he wanted to be known for. When Jerry was around 21, he faced one of the worst moments of his entire existence as his mom passed away in the year 1987. It broke him badly because she was always one of his biggest supporters. Even though it didn't look like it at the time, she believed passionately in him and did everything she could to ensure his dream became a reality. Losing her felt like the ground had been pulled out from under him. A few months after his mother's death, his grandmother died too. These back-to-back losses had a brutal impact on his songwriting, making it dark, heavy, and brutally honest. After his mom's death, Jerry had nowhere to go or turn to. He moved out and floated around, crashing on friends' couches. At one point, he was living at a friend's house where a group of musicians gathered. He was still trying to find his place, both in music and in life. That's when he started taking music seriously. He knew what he wanted. He wanted a sound that was raw, emotional, and real. He played in a few groups in the Seattle scene, none of them lasting long, but every jam session and every failed attempt brought him closer to something solid. He eventually formed a band called Diamond Lie, where he started singing and writing more. The group wasn't a large one, but it provided Jerry with space to grow. People were beginning to notice him not just as a guitarist, but as a serious musician with a message to convey. One night at a party, fate stepped in and he met Layne Staley. Layne was fronting a glam band called Alice in Chains at the time. Jerry thought Layne had one of the most powerful voices he had ever heard, haunting and full of soul. Layne, on the other hand, saw something in Jerry's guitar playing that attracted him. Instantly, he knew that was the beginning of a big thing. At first, they didn't jump into a band together right away. It took time, but their connection was real. They began talking about music, discussing jamming, and sharing ideas on music-related affairs. Layne was still doing his own thing, and Jerry was still finding his way, but something clicked between them. Something deeper than musical chemistry. They both carried pain, and they both knew how to pour it into their songs. From there, everything had to change instantly. They formed a band together, one that combined both their strengths, Jerry's raw songwriting and guitar work, with Layne's unforgettable voice. That band, of course, would become Alice in Chains. But before all of that, Jerry Cantrell was just a kid who survived heartbreak, emotional torture, and held on to his dreams, believing in the power of music. The road was rough, but it led him to the place where he was meant to be. However, it all started before Layne came into the picture, before the stages, the records, the pain, and the fame. It began with a quiet kid, a grieving heart, and a guitar that told the truth when no one else could. Jerry Cantrell and Layne Staley. Jerry Cantrell and Layne Staley's friendship story extends far beyond music, encompassing not only sold-out shows and fame, but also a deeper connection. More than just the tale of a successful rock duo, it is like a journey of two men who had a connection because they were both passionate about music. Every single thing was both life-giving and ultimately soul-wrenching. Their strong bond added immense beauty to the sound of Alice in Chains and left a lasting impression on an entire generation. In essence, theirs was a story of brotherhood. In the late 1980s, the Seattle music scene was still in its early stages of becoming the epicenter of what the world would soon call grunge. It was during this time, even in the midst of the search for purpose and identity, that Jerry Cantrell met Layne Staley. They were two very different people. Jerry was an introspective guitarist whose gift for melody and melancholy was unparalleled. On the other hand, Layne was an enigmatic frontman with a voice that could haunt even your bones. Beneath the surface, they were kindred spirits, both scarred, searching, capable of bleeding truth into every lyric and note. During a chit-chat, Cantrell once shared how the connection between them wasn't forced. They didn't even have to do so much. It just clicked. They didn't have to explain things to each other. Music flowed naturally and effortlessly when they were together. often in long, unspoken stretches of creativity. Whether it was Cantrell coming up with a riff or Layne laying down vocals, they both knew by instinct exactly what the other person needed. They weren't just writing songs because it came. They were pouring out pieces of themselves into every track. When Alice in Chains began to take form, their combined talents gave birth to something raw, dark, and emotionally appealing. On albums like Facelift and Dirt, they made sure to touch every single area of life, both the good and the ugly. They didn't shy away from areas like addiction, depression, trauma, stigma, etc. They embraced them, exposed them, and turned them into beautiful, harrowing art. Their music stood out among others, and it was not just because of those skills and talents. It was the uniqueness in their harmony. There was something deeply unsettling, yet captivating about the way their voices intertwined. Cantrell's harmonies are often laced with pain beneath Layne's anguished lead. Beyond music, it was therapy. It was a confession. It was two men staring into the same darkness, trying to make sense of it together. It was two people trying to navigate through life together. As the band began to rise to fame, Layne's demons also began to emerge. Addiction had always lingered low-key, but over time, it began to consume more and more of him. Jerry, watching his best friend suffer, was helpless in many ways, but he never left. He stayed and assured Layne that he was close. He stood by Layne even as things got worse, refusing to treat him as disposable or push him aside to face his life and productivity. Cantrell constantly spoke with a quiet ache in his voice about the pain of watching someone so brilliant fade in slow motion. Instead of replacing Layne or pressuring him to perform well, the band chose to pause for years out of respect for his well-being. That wasn't a business decision. It was a love decision. It was brotherhood in its purest form. The death of Layne Staley. Layne was becoming increasingly withdrawn and reclusive as time passed. He barely left his Seattle apartment. Friends, bandmates, and even family members rarely saw him. His heroin addiction had taken over his life. And what worsened it all was the tragic death of his former fiancée, Demry Parrott, in 1996. He seemed to withdraw from the world completely. It broke him. People who knew him said he was never the same after she died. Everything had changed. In the final years of Layne's life, Layne was like a ghost. He kept to himself in his condo, playing video games, taking substances, and sometimes recording bits of music alone. There were times when people would check on him, but he mostly refused visitors. He usually ordered food or had small expenses here and there. Concerned, his mother and others reached out, but they couldn't get through to him. Finally, on the 19th of April, a few people, including the police, went to check on him. Jerry tried to stay in touch, though it wasn't always possible. In interviews he had years later, he admitted, "I tried to reach out, but he was unreachable. I couldn't force him to pick up the phone. I loved him, and I wish I could have done more. What they found was just so devastating." Layne had been dead for about 2 weeks. His body was discovered on his couch, surrounded by substance paraphernalia. The scene was horrible. He had been alone, and no one had known that he had passed away, compounded by the fact that he wasn't letting people visit. The official cause of death was an overdose from a mixture of heroin and cocaine, a dangerous combo that is commonly known as a speedball. He died on the 5th of April in 2002, but it wasn't until 2 weeks later that the world found out. Layne's death was a very tragic one, but not entirely surprising to those close to him. He had fought addiction for so long, and sadly, it was a fight that he lost. What makes it even more sorrowful is that his voice, music, and lyrics often gave a slight glimpse into the pain he was experiencing. He poured everything into his songs, but in the end, even that wasn't enough to save him. Jerry was on tour when he got the call that Layne was dead. Though he had feared the worst for years, the news still shattered him. You can never really prepare for it, even if you think you can. After Layne's death, Jerry entered a period of mourning. He didn't speak publicly right away, choosing instead to grieve in silence. But when he did speak, his love for Layne was just so palpable. "He was my friend. He was my brother. and he was a beautiful person. In 2009, when Alice in Chains released Black Gives Way to Blue with new vocalist William Duvall, the title track was a tribute to their late vocalist, Layne. Elton John even played piano on the track. The lyrics did justice to it all. I don't want to feel no more. It's easier to keep falling. I'm not gonna stand and wait. I'll find you in the end. Jerry maintained the legacy. Despite Alice in Chains' resurgence with Duvall, Jerry Cantrell has made it clear that Layne is irreplaceable. We didn't replace Layne. You can't. We found a way to carry on, to honor him, and to keep making music. Even after so many decades, Cantrell often refers to Layne in the present tense. He keeps Layne close, not just in his memories and thoughts, but in the fabric of the band's sound, the themes of the music, and in the hearts of his dedicated fan base. Although Layne is often remembered for his tragic end, Jerry has worked to remind people that Layne was also full of light. He was intelligent, spiritual, funny, and had a mimicry talent that could crack up a room. He could quote movie lines, imitate voices, and make everyone laugh. People talk about his addiction, but he was a brilliant, warm soul. That's what I carry with me. The bond between Jerry Cantrell and Layne Staley was more than just the music they did together. It was spiritual, emotional, and deeply human. It was complicated and beautiful. It left scars, but also gave the world some of the most hauntingly honest music of a generation. Layne's voice may be silent now, but through Jerry, it still echoes. There's not a day I don't think about him. He's still with us, always. Jerry ended. Jerry Cantrell confirmed the rumor. One of the biggest rumors spreading at the time was that Layne had become a recluse and was slowly dying from substance use. People said he was living alone, barely eating and neglecting his care. Others said that he had lost his teeth, couldn't walk well, and was just lying in his apartment all the time, watching TV and taking substances. It sounded too sad to be true. So many people hoped it wasn't. Some fans thought he might be taking a break or seeking help, but this rumor kept growing, that Layne Staley was wasting away, alone, sick, and dying. And nobody knew how bad it was, except for a few people who were close to him. After Layne started to disappear from the public and the band, Jerry didn't talk much about it at first. For a long time, Jerry kept things private. Later on, after Layne died in 2002, Jerry opened up. He discussed how difficult it was to watch someone you love fall apart. In some interviews, Jerry confirmed that the rumors were sadly true. He said Layne had become a recluse. He didn't come out much. He looked very sick. He had lost a significant amount of weight and no longer looked like himself. Jerry said that it was very painful to see Layne that way, and that they tried to help him, but addiction is tough. Jerry admitted that he had not even seen Layne for a long time before his death. He said it broke his heart. They had shared so much together, from music to friendship to good times, and now Layne was completely alone, not even letting his closest friends see him. One of the saddest things Jerry had confirmed was that when Layne died, his body was not found for 2 weeks. That part of the rumor was true. Layne had passed away in his apartment, and no one even knew. His body was found only after his accountants noticed money wasn't being withdrawn anymore, and his mother asked the police to check in on him. For Jerry and others who loved Layne, confirming the rumors meant facing the bitter and sad truth that their friend had suffered alone. Jerry said he had tried to stay in touch, but Layne had pushed people away. It's common with victims of addiction. People feel ashamed or hopeless, so they can hide. Layne didn't want to be seen in that condition. He didn't want people to remember him that way. Jerry said he never stopped caring about Layne. He even wrote songs that were about him or inspired by their friendship and the pain it caused. One of those songs is Black Gives Way to Blue, which Jerry wrote for Layne after his death. It's a beautiful, emotional goodbye. This story was more than just about music or rumors. It was about real life, real pain, and how addiction can destroy people. Layne Staley was an amazing artist, but he also struggled deeply. The rumors about his health and lifestyle turned out to be true, and Jerry Cantrell confirmed them. Not to gossip, but to show the seriousness of the situation. Jerry has said it countless times that he wishes things had gone differently. He wishes Layne could have gotten better, come back to the world, and made music again, living a full life. But that's not what happened. So the lesson in this sad rumor is that addiction is more powerful than one may expect or imagine. It can separate people from the world, even from those who love them the most. It can lead to sadness, pain, and even death. And sometimes we only understand how bad things were after it's too late. Jerry Cantrell still talks about Layne with deep love. He doesn't try to make him look perfect, but he honors him for the good things: his talent, his heart, his skill, and the memories they shared. Jerry confirmed the sad rumors not to make Layne look bad, but to show the truth, and maybe to help others understand how dangerous addiction is. If there's one thing Jerry has made clear, it's this: Layne mattered a whole lot. He was loved. He was not just a rock star. He was a friend, a brother, and a human being. Although he died too young, he left a legacy that continues to touch people today. Having watched how Jerry and Layne bonded all of a sudden, and how Layne died, what do you think Jerry should have done to save Layne from dying? Please share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. See you in the next video.